Hello everyone, welcome to Endless English. Do you love your country? No doubt, we all love our country, am I right? It's a feeling of loyalty too. It's a sweet feeling. It's in everyone's blood, isn't it? We will stand by the right, we will stand by the truth, we will live, we will die for the flag. This is patriotism. This poem, Incident of the French Camp, presents a theme, the patriotism. Shall we get into the video now? Robert Browning was born in Camberwell, a suburb of London, on 7th May in 1812. He was educated mainly at home, but he attended a short course in Greek at London University. In 1846, he married Elizabeth Barrett, 6 years his senior, and lived in Florence, Italy for the next 15 years. After his wife's death in 1861, he came back to England and settled in London. By 1881, his fame as a poet was so much that a literary society called Browning Society was established by some of the scholars of the time. Ever since he settled in England, it was his practice to spend the winter every year in Italy. During one such visit, he died in Venice on 12th December 1889. The body was brought to England and buried in the Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey. He lies buried next to his great rival Tennyson. Browning is famous for his dramatic monologue. He is more famous for using too many compressed expressions. He has faith in God. Napoleon Bonaparte was a French statesman and military leader who led many successful wars during the French Revolution. He was the Emperor of France from 1804 to 1814. He played a key role in French Revolution. Today he is considered one of the greatest military generals in history. He was over-ambitious. He had a grand vision for him. He wanted to be a new Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. Under his command, the French forces crossed the length of Europe and brought the strongest opponents to their knees. He wanted to get Ratisbon. The war with Ratisbon is called the Battle of Ratisbon or Regensburg Battle. Ratisbon is a German city on the Danube River in Germany. This war was fought on 23rd April 1809. The war was between Austria and France. It was one of the most important wars led by the French Emperor Napoleon I and the Austrian Emperor Archduke Charles. The poem Incident of the French Camp speaks about the incident that happened in the French camp. The war was between French and the Austrians. The French forces were led by the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and the Austrians were led by the Austrian Emperor Archduke Charles. Napoleon planned to attack Ratisbon to push the Austrians out of the last hold on the bank of the river Danube. The Battle of Ratisbon or the Battle of Regensburg was a final major battle in the Franco-Austrian War. In the Battle of Ratisbon, Marshal Jean-Lannes led the French army and captured Ratisbon, a city across the river Danube in Germany. You know, we French stormed Ratisbon. This is a French attack on Ratisbon, a city in Austria already I have said. Marshal Lannes led the French forces. They attacked Ratisbon. A mile or so away, on a little mound, Napoleon stood on a storming day. On the day of the attack, the French Emperor Napoleon stood on a small hill just a mile away from the scene of the war. He appeared to be in a thoughtful mood. With neck outrest, you fancy how legs wide, arms locked behind, as if to balance the prone brow, oppressive with his mind. These few lines say the thoughtful mood of Napoleon Bonaparte. He was standing, his neck sticking out, his legs were wide apart. He had his arms joined behind his back, and a cloud of confusion was seen on his brow. It seemed that something very important was disturbing him. His future plans depends upon the victory of this Ratisbon. Just as perhaps he mused, my plans that soar to earth may fall. Let once my army leader lanes waver at yonder wall. Napoleon was lost in his thoughts. All his future planning depended upon this success at Ratisbon. He was eagerly waiting to see the French flag flutter over the German city. Out twixt the battery's smoke, there flew a rider, bound on bound, full galloping, nor bridle drew until he reached the mountain. This stanza tells us about the arrival of a young soldier from the battle to convey a news. Here, when Napoleon was in deep thought, he observed a young French soldier rushing towards him, riding at top speed. The rider pierced through the blanket of smoke. He came straight to the place where Napoleon was standing and was waiting to receive the good news. Then off they flung in smiling joy, and held himself erect by just his horseman, a boy you hardly could suspect. These lines tell us how this young soldier displayed an extraordinary courage in front of his chief. The young soldier jumped off his horse and stood at attention before his chief. Although he was fatally wounded, although he was badly wounded, he displayed an extraordinary courage, confidence, and self control in front of his chief. None could guess that he was badly wounded at their first glance. So tight he kept his lips compressed, scarce any blood came through. You looked twice ere you saw his breast was all but shot in two. These lines tell us how the boy controlled the bleeding in his mouth. His mouth was full of blood, but he had his lips so tightly closed that not a drop of blood oozed out of it. He maintained his cool posture and with confidence and chivalry conveyed the cheerful news of victory to his chief. One could never realize that the young soldier's breast was shot into two unless one had very keen and observant eye on him. In these lines, the young soldier conveys the chief the good news of victory over Ratisbon. Well, cried he, Emperor, by God's grace, we have got you Ratisbon. The marshal is in the marketplace, and you will be there anon. Although the young soldier was in severe pain, finally he opened his lips, and with a great sense of pleasure, he informed Napoleon of the capture of the German city. He said Marshal Lannes had reached the heart of the city, the center of the city, and the Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte would also be there very soon. Here the young soldier conveys the joyful news, the successful news to his chief very proudly. To see your flagbird flap his wings, where I, to heart's desire, perched him. The chief's eye flashed, his plan soared up again like fire. The soldier felt a special kind of joy and pride in the fact that he, with his own hands, had planted the French flag over Ratisbon. The flag had the figure of a bird on it, Thus, when the flag fluttered in the air, it seemed as though the bird was flapping its wings. No sooner did Napoleon get the news of victory than a sparkle of joy and satisfaction came to his eyes. He once again started thinking about his future plans. In these lines, we see the care and the affection of the chief towards his soldiers. The chief's eye flashed but presently softened itself as she's a film the mother eagle's eye when her bruised eaglet breathes. Here in these lines, the poet compares the chief with a mother eagle. The good news of success had brought in Napoleon's eyes a special kind of shining and glitter which disappeared very fast when he noticed that the soldier was fatally wounded. The feelings of Napoleon at that moment were just like those of the mother eagle who gets confused when she finds her young one badly hurt and badly wounded and on the point of death. She fails to understand how to save its life. Likewise, even the chief also very much tensed and worried how he could save the life of this soldier who brought the good news to him. Here we come to know how proud the boy was in sacrificing his life for the country. "You are wounded." "Nay," a soldier's pride touched the quick, he said. The motherly affection welled up in Napoleon's heart, and he inquired the boy whether he was wounded. The soldier proudly declared that he felt joy and thrill in giving his life for his country. "I am killed, sir," and his chief beside, smiling the boy, felt it. The soldier replied that he was almost killed. Saying this, he fell beside the emperor and died there. In this way, the young soldier sacrificed his life to perform his duty. Hats off to all the soldiers who are willing to sacrifice their life for the country. Let's pay great homage and respect to all the heroes in the war who never think of their families and friends, sun and cold, but only with the thought of saving the nation. Let's all pay our respect and homage to all the soldiers of this world. What figure of speech is applied in the following line? Synecdoche. A part is made to represent the whole. You know we French stormed Ratisbon. Here, French refers to the country, not the army. So likewise, if we apply a word for representing the whole, that is called a synecdoche. Read the following appreciation questions and understand the poem well. These appreciation questions are followed by a gist of the poem for your better understanding. Hello, my dear ones. This poem describes an act of chivalry, gallantry, patriotism, and sacrifice on the part of a young French soldier. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. says John F. Kennedy. Keeping this in your heart, be ready to serve for your nation. Let me take a leave of you with the Lord's soft wishes and greetings, and meet you again with some other lesson in the next video. Till then, it's bye from Vijay. Take care. Thank you.